Unemployment is now screaming up. I'm watching people lose their jobs. But the biggest crash of all is yet to come. Millions of Americans are wiped out.
And so for people listening to us, what can they do about it? Invest in real assets.
Do your best to see what you cannot see. I see the dollar bill in my pocket and all this, but that's not money, you know what I mean? So we've got to push our brains into another dimension of thought.
And I love what you said earlier. They're going to take your wealth via your money.
Taxation, inflation. When they print money, our assets go up, and food and all that goes up. Rents go up, real estate goes up, and the poor get poorer. Bitcoin stops that. It's rules-based money.
Yeah.
As people's money.
Yes.
And gold and silver are God's money. God put it here. And fiat money is fake money.
What do you make of what's going on in America with the justice system?
We've gone corrupt. What they did to Trump, they're going to do to you. You and I are in trouble because we're spokespeople.
He talks about doing things for the economy. He talks about ending the wars. Do you think he can?
I fear for his life. That's the truth. If he ever got effective.
How do you still get excited to jump out of bed and do deals?
What I'm excited about is working on projects that make a difference. So there's so much more things you can do besides complain. And there's a lot of people who are fed up with the losers and the complainers. You know, we have problems. Let's solve the problems. Let capitalists solve the problems, not Marxists. Ask yourself, what does God want done? And do it.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Robert Kiyosaki, the entrepreneur, investor, financial expert, and author of the globally renowned bestseller, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the #1 personal finance book of all time. Robert, you've dedicated your life to challenging the way tens of millions of people around the world think about money and investing. You have warned us that America is broken, bankrupt, and one of the most corrupt nations in the world, and that inflation is steadily destroying families from all walks of life. You have also said that Bitcoin is the easiest way to become a millionaire, predicting it could hit $350,000 as early as this year, and that once the Fed introduces their central bank digital currency, Bitcoin could become priceless. You believe President Joe Biden is the worst leader in U.S. history, and that the actions of the woke left have gone too far in convicting your good friend, President Donald Trump. You've also said the financial crash has already begun, but the good news is, quote, this is the best time to get rich. Robert, always a pleasure. Welcome back to London Real.
Well, Brian, thank you for the years and years and years of friendship. I appreciate it.
So do I, Robert. It's been like 10 years,
Yeah.
probably 10 episodes. I've seen you on 3 or 4 continents.
That's right.
It's a friendship I treasure so much, and
Right.
I respect you so much. And I hope one day when I grow up, I'll be like you.
Good. You can take my place.
Okay. I want to jump into it, especially Bitcoin, because it's interesting to see a guy like you embrace this digital currency that most people think is being done by kids in their 20s. But you, because you're a savvy investor, have always understood real assets. You wrote a book called Fake, which is amazing. People should get it, about fake money and fake teachers and fake everything. But you recently said this, quote, Bitcoin is the easiest way to become a millionaire. Making millions as an entrepreneur is hard. I know. You have to be really smart, dedicated, and lucky to become a millionaire starting your own business. I say Bitcoin because Bitcoin does the hard work for me. That's why I love Bitcoin, unquote. Can you tell me about your relationship with Bitcoin and what you think about it and what you can tell other people.
Well, we were talking about at the start. I think I'll toss it back to you. How did your son get it finally? What happened with your son? How old is your son?
Yeah, so Robert and I were just talking. I have two beautiful boys. They're now 6 and 8 years old. And of course, they grew up, online. They grew up playing games and they grew up with these digital assets on the games.
Right.
And so I'm trying to train them to be young men. I'm trying to teach them the things I learned as a kid. And my mom had me do a chore list and I would get my allowance. And so I'm trying to introduce the concept of money. Now, we did this for a couple years and they would get a pound here and a pound there. And they have these little piggy banks with like 80, 100 pounds. But they had no connection with what the money meant because they weren't out buying things. Last night, my son Damon realized that his pound sterling could be converted to Robux, which is the currency inside the Roblox video games. And his eyes went like this. And all of a sudden, he wants to do his chores. All of a sudden, he's calculating the pounds. He understands the exchange rates. And now he's got a relationship with money.
Yes. If I could explain why I said your son.
Please.
I was a student of this man here, Dr. R. Buckminster Fuller. They consider him one of the greatest geniuses of our time, either geodesic dome.
Yes.
And I studied with Fuller for 3 summers. And every time I studied with him, he just blew my mind. But long before Bitcoin appeared, again, he's a futurist. He said the future of money is game money, electronic, crypto, exactly as your son did.
Wow.
So I'm listening to this guy going, it's going to be electronic. And it's really tough to grasp, because all you need is a dollar bill or coins. And GRUNT stands for Gross Universal Cash Ice. How our wealth is stolen via our money. So Bitcoin stops that. So when Bitcoin came out, I went, there it is, because he was warning us years and years and years ago that money is going to become electronic. And so it's money guided by laws and rules. You can only print 21 million of them. It's what you call a blockchain and all this. So it was pretty easy for me to accept what he said. This was in the 80s. When I saw it pop up, just like your son, I went, there it is. There it is.
Okay.
So, but I didn't, we're talking about Max Kaiser. He told me to get it at 50 cents. I didn't listen to him.
Right.
But anyway.
So that's why you got it, because Buckminster Fuller had trained you to start thinking about the future.
Correct.
He had talked about it. And so when it came up, you said, that's it.
I saw it and I went, but I still, you don't know yet, because we can't see it. See, the problem is you can see a dollar bill, you can see a pound, you can see this. You can't see Bitcoin. So once I got it, so that's what he was talking about, Fuller was talking about, I started to study it. And again, it's basically rules-based money.
Okay.
They can't just keep printing it like the Federal Bank of England, Bank of Japan is doing. And then this is another book here I think I suggest people read. It's called When Money Destroys Nations. And I was in the wrong place at the right time. I was in Zimbabwe, I forget what year it was, when their Zim dollar collapsed.
Right.
And today people laugh about it. I carry a $10 million Zim dollar with me.
Right. It's like a 10 million or $1 trillion bill or something like that. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this book is by Philip Haslam. Easy to read. I suggest everybody read it because this is what's happening to the pound, the dollar, the yen, the peso, the euro. When money is going to destroy us, because today what America is doing is we're printing money to pay the interest. Now that's like getting a credit card to pay off your credit card. Yeah. I mean, what rocket science guys are at the Federal Reserve Bank? These guys are PhDs. They're knuckleheads. How can you borrow money to pay off debt? That's what they're doing. And they're PhDs. They're so smart. But your son knows better.
I know. Now, it is a desperate situation. When I was a kid, we saw nations like Brazil with their hyperinflation, and we would make fun of them. We would point the finger and say, look at these
how stupid they are.
Nations, how stupid they are. How could they ever do that? And who would have guessed 20, 30 years later, we're doing the same thing.
We're here. Let me tell you a story about being at the wrong place at the right time. When I was in Zimbabwe, and I didn't know, American, I don't know. And there were these black guys called war vets. They all carried AK-47s. I was hunting on a ranch or a farm in Zimbabwe, and these 2 truck lorries come in full of black guys with black AK-47s. I have 2 tours in Vietnam. I was U.S. Marine. I said, I'm back in Vietnam again. And these black guys come up, they jump out, they get the white woman and her husband, and they put guns to their heads and they march them off. They were taking, it was called reparations.
Taking the land.
That's what American blacks are doing now, is reparations. They want people who were never slaves, who never owned slaves, to give blacks money. Reparations. Hitler did the same thing.
Wow.
So these black guys, I'm in Zimbabwe, completely frickin' clueless. I'm just going, what's happening here? And that little white woman came up to me, she says, burn this place down. Leave these SOBs, nothing. Burn this place down. And I look at my professional hunter, I go, yes, ma'am. So they take her husband off. I don't know what happened to him. So we got torches. My professional hunter, a white guy, we torch their homes, their buildings. I still remember going into the barn, they had all their tractors. I torched their diesel and all this. I could almost hear the music from a Hollywood movie. I'm back in Vietnam torching things.
Wow. So they just didn't want to give something away that was theirs. They believed it was theirs.
Please, yes.
It was basically capitalism versus communism, right? You either own property or the state takes it back from you.
Please, the key word is reparations.
Okay.
That's what brought Hitler to power. That's what the Black Lives Matter wants to do in America. They want people like me, and if you see America, to pay them for what happened to them in 1600 or something. Reparations never solved a thing. But that's what's going on now. Then I was in Johannesburg like 3 weeks ago. I was teaching a seminar there, and there was about 1,500 people in the room. And this guy, Philip Haslam, author of this book, stood up. I love this guy. The book is simple, easy to read, easy to understand. But people think it's happening to Zimbabwe. It's not going to happen here.
Right.
So I'm standing there, and Philip Haslam and I are teaching like we teach. And all of a sudden, another white woman stands up, and she comes walking to the front of the room, and she turns to the crowd of South Africans. She says, "Wake up, South Africa. What happened in Zimbabwe is happening here now. It's happening in America." So the title of this book is When Money Destroys Nations. When we print money, not only to pay our bills, but pay the interest on the bills we've already paid, we're going down. America's going down, the euro's going down. The dollars will stay strong, but when you print money, 2 things happen, Brian. Inflation goes up and guys like us get richer. But when you print money, inflation goes up and the poor get poor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we now have, I'm in America, I'm watching homelessness expand. I'm watching people losing their, unemployment is now screaming up. I'm watching people lose their jobs. But the biggest crash of all is yet to come. It's my generation, the boomer generation. The boomer generation is the first generation with what we call a 401k. Do you know what I mean? The World War II generation had a defined benefit. They were guaranteed a pension. The boomers don't have that. If the S&P comes down, millions of American boomers are wiped out.
Right.
Because of the 401k. And that's why there's no financial education in our schools. Why I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And you've been on my side the whole damn time, so I thank you. Now your kids should not tell you the same thing.
I know. And when I look at my kids, I think about how I need to teach them about money, and I think about your books, Robert. And you've been calling this for a very long time. You've been explaining exactly what's happening. And I find myself all the time quoting you. When I'm teaching my courses every single week, I'm constantly quoting everything you say. The difference between a rich person and a poor person is their relationship with fear. Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah. There's so many things that you say that I have to give back to these students because like you said, we can't see it. Yeah. I was saying earlier, I don't know who discovered water, but it certainly wasn't a fish.
Right.
And we grew up in this fiat currency system, this dream, this con, and we can't see it in front of us. Even when we see a stack of dollar bills, we think our first reaction is, oh, that's valuable, when we know after thinking about it that it's not. And I love what you said earlier. They're going to take your wealth
via your money.
Via your money.
Taxation, inflation.
Right. Okay.
And so when they print money, our assets go up. When you print money, fried chicken goes up, and food and all that goes up. Rents go up. Real estate goes up. And the poor get poorer. Yeah. So now we have a gap, as you know, between rich and poor. I love London. I can't believe how expensive it is. I don't know how people survive here.
Yeah. It's a city-state. It really is kind of a place where you need a lot of money just to be here in London. But like you said, that the punchline of this whole thing is that the rich will get richer. And so, here we have Robert Kiyosaki telling you the truth, not because it's going to benefit you. The wealthy understand how to invest in real assets. I remember we used to joke, there was that New York Times article a few years ago where it was trying to do a hit piece on Jared Kushner because it showed he was investing in real estate and not paying taxes. And it was like, yeah, and anyone can do that. The problem is that the poor have no financial education. And so they actually pay for this. And the wealthy people, they've known to invest in real assets for a long time.
Yeah.
And so it's just a con that keeps getting worse, and they're kicking the can down the road. And now the UK, alongside the US, printed record amounts of money during lockdown and continue to.
Correct.
And we started with Bitcoin. The great thing about Bitcoin is it's this parallel financial system where there's a fixed supply and there's no cheating over here. There's cheating over here.
It's rules-based money.
Yeah.
As people's money.
Yes.
And gold and silver are God's money. In other words, God put it here. And fiat money is fake money. The pound, the sterling, the dollar and the euro are fake.
Yeah.
They print it.
Someone asked me recently when I said we're into crypto, we invest a lot in blockchain. They said, I heard that's got some scams and stuff. I said, no. I said, Bitcoin is an instrument of freedom. That's what it is. Right. If you own it, you have freedom. If you own your money and it's in a bank, you have the illusion of freedom.
Yeah, I can't guarantee it, but when like I said, when Bucky Fuller wrote this book here, and he said, just as your son, he saw it, it's electronic. And Fuller said the same thing. He says, people cannot get out of the way of things they cannot see. And that woman in Johannesburg who was from Zimbabwe, she was pointing to all the South Africans saying, you guys can't see it. They're doing the same thing in South Africa and America and UK that they did in Zimbabwe. And that's where this book comes up, When Money Destroys Nations. Right. When they print money to pay the interest on the money. If I tell you, hey, Brian, I got this great idea. I'm going to take out more credit cards to pay my bills. What would you say to me?
You call it robbing Peter to pay Paul.
No,
yeah.
You would say,
it's just a never-ending...
But that's what the Federal Reserve Bank, the Bank of England, Bank of Japan. Japan's in horrible shape.
Right. And so for people listening to us, what can they do about it? Invest in real assets.
Well, I think I thought it must be divine intervention. Your son tells you exactly what he got it. He could see what we cannot see.
Right.
And I think that behooves all of us people listening to do your best to see what you cannot see. I see the dollar bill in my pocket and all this, but that's not money, you know what I mean? So we've got to push our brains into another dimension of thought. And your son saw it. Yeah. Fuller said the same thing way back when. He says, the money for kids' game is the future. And your son saw it.
And at 6 years old, he owns assets. That's the crazy thing. He owns an asset. Whereas when I grew up, I'd have to be maybe 30 before I could maybe buy a small one-bedroom apartment. That was the closest I would get to an asset.
Yeah.
So now these young kids will maybe learn quicker via these digital platforms.
I hope so.
I hope so. That's the one good thing is this parallel system of Bitcoin. It's now had the ETF approved by, the SEC, and now institutions are investing in it. So it's a little bit of a ray of hope alongside a mess of currency printing. We'll see.
Yeah, you've still got to be careful.
Yes.
There's 21 million Bitcoin. It's on blockchain, which means everybody monitors it.
Yeah.
And I think they printed like 20 million so far.
Yeah, I think there's a few million left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what it's at today, about 60,000. I took me a while to catch on. I started buying it at 6,000.
Okay.
And everybody says, I wish I had bought it at 6. Well, so did I, But you've seen it because you work in the investment world. Everybody says, like, I should have bought Apple at $2.
Yeah.
Or I should have bought Nvidia at $2.
Yeah, that too.
Everybody says the same thing.
They say that you get to buy Bitcoin at the price you deserve. You like that?
Yeah. But I say to people, it's the design of the system of Bitcoin. Buy it anyway. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm not wrong. But it'll keep going up because it's limited to 21 million. And more and more, there's more fakes coming in. They call them shut coins and all this. But Bitcoin is Metcalfe's law. It's a system. And it's the most powerful system out there so far. So it's pretty safe. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But if you bought like 2, so that's $120,000, and let it ride.
Yeah. It's the biggest supercomputer in the world. It's 1,500 times bigger than the CERN computer, which is that particle accelerator right here in Europe. It's decentralized. It's been running for 13 years without any downtime. It's pretty impressive at this point. And like you said, don't be concerned with the price. It's still probably an intelligent long-term buy. Not financial advice, but it is just because of the rules. And some people are going all in on that. Michael Saylor of Michael Strategy, he buys it every month, no matter what the price is. Yeah, he just buys. I had him on the show a couple years ago, and I said, Michael, up to what price will you buy Bitcoin? At the time, it was like 30,000. And without missing a beat, he said 250,000. I'm just going to buy it because I'm going to buy it I'm holding it for the next 1,000 years.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I'm in the same camp.
Okay, excellent. And so you always like real things, real assets, gold, silver, real estate, companies that you control, Bitcoin. These are the things you like, and you don't like anything else.
I want control.
Yes.
That's a big word,
Okay.
And then you're from Wall Street. How many games did they play?
Oh my gosh. I mean, honestly, when I'm not quoting you, Robert, I'm telling people stories of the way we used to rip them off on Wall Street.
All the time.
That's what it is. And that's what I did, and that's what I learned when I got there. And when I try to explain that to people, they don't even know what's happening. Yeah. And it happens in crypto as well, because not all of crypto is blockchain. No. Some of these crypto exchanges are basically just stock markets playing the same games. And so I try to educate people to what's going on. And that's all we can do. Try to bring them up the curve.
And Peter Schiff, he's a very smart guy. He said it probably the most accurately. He says, why are people buying Bitcoin? Because they want to get rich. He says, it's not worth anything unless you want to get rich. I said, well, what's wrong with that? He says, it's not worth anything. I said, but you can get rich. And I said, okay, that's enough for me.
And that's an important point. I've been having this discussion with a lot of people in blockchain lately, Robert, and they said it's time to acknowledge that humans like to speculate, and that's okay. And we should allow that to happen and understand that's part of being human, and not try to pretend it's not happening or run away from it. It doesn't mean that's the entire piece. That doesn't mean you don't need to invest, but that's all part of the pie. And I get frustrated when people say there's no intrinsic value here. You could say that about the dollar. You could say that about a lot of things. And so I don't really buy that argument. There's clearly value here, but some people are going to die never understanding there's value.
That never will. That's why there's 2 books I'm a reader. Grunt stands for Gross Universal Cash Ice.
I love that.
You're guaranteed to lose money is what it means. If you do what they taught you, and my poor dad said to me, go to school, get a job, work hard, save money. Why would you save money when they're printing it? Get out of debt. Money is debt. And invest for the long term in the stock market. It's setting people up because the money is bad. It's the basic money is bad.
Yeah.
And that's why people better wake up. Your son woke up. The perfect story for us to meet just now. There it is.
Right, made your day. Good. One day he'll watch this when he's a little bit older. I was in America about 3 weeks ago, Robert, and I was in Austin, Texas. I was actually at a crypto conference. And then I went by to see Alex Jones at his show, and we were promoting our new movie. And it was the day that your friend Donald Trump was convicted in New York City. And I was just curious as to what your reaction was. You've known him for a long time. You wrote a book together. I know you have good relationships with his sons and his family. What did you make of what happened that day? And what is it? What do you make of what's going on in America then with the justice system?
It's the end of America, really. The empire's gone. We've gone corrupt. And Trump, I was in Orlando at another conference, and there was a guy named Robert Barnes, who's an attorney. And the whole room was in mourning. There was probably like 3,000 people. Everybody was in mourning because most Republicans. Anyway, a few people were cheering. But this guy, Robert Barnes, says, this is the thing. We were talking about this also before he says, never forget what they did to Trump, they're going to do to you. And Robert Barnes is the guy that's suing the Fed. I mean, that's how big his cojones are, He says, they're coming after you next. So it's like, you and I are in trouble because we're spokespeople. London Real is going to say something.
Right. And they're coming
if you say nothing, nobody cares.
So they're coming after us next.
Yeah, anybody who speaks up.
And again, just like the money, we can't see it, right? No. You can't see it happening, and you don't think it's going to happen to you as well.
I just remembered I brought this with me. I don't know, how much is this? This is that Zimbabwe dollar.
10 million
10
Zimbabwe
million.
dollars. And what's it worth?
It won't even buy you an egg.
Right. Nothing.
And again, that's the correlation. Like your son got electronic, I want people to get.
How long until the US dollar looks like that? 100 years? Less?
Well, the dollar's strong, as you know.
Yeah.
Because we have a strong military. But, I'm not a fan of Biden. I'll tell you why, is because my background is in oil. I grew up in Hawaii, went to school in New York, and I studied oil. I drove oil tankers for Standard Oil.
Yeah.
So I own oil wells in Louisiana, Texas, and North Dakota. And when Trump was president, I was selling oil at $30 a barrel. Biden gets elected in this rigged election. I'm quite sure it was fake. Bad election. That's even worse than Trump. But Biden's first act, his very first act, was to cut the Keystone pipeline. Yeah. From Canada to the Gulf of Mexico was oil running from Canada to the Gulf. He cut that. I'm selling oil at $30 a barrel. The moment Biden cut that, oil went from 30 to 130. His next act was to open the border and let millions of immigrants through. If Biden's not the biggest traitor I've ever seen, I'm not saying to like him, dislike him. Watch what a person does, not what they say. He cuts the pipeline and opens the border. In my book, that's called treason.
Why, Robert? You ever think why?
I don't know.
I know. So when I ran to be mayor in 21 here, I looked at what the mayor was doing in the city, and I thought, he's doing the exact opposite of everything he should do to help the people. I couldn't believe it. It almost looked like a joke or some type of a foreign invasion, because every single decision was hurting the people, not helping the people. I honestly couldn't understand it. I couldn't even see the logic. And I don't with what Biden's doing either. The border, I don't even see the end game.
Yeah, please hear what I'm saying. Watch what a person does, not what they say. And the first two acts of Biden were treason. And people love the guy. They hate Trump.
That's starting to change, though. Starting to change. And so on the back of this conviction, Trump raised hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. The crazy thing is he just got back from a fundraiser in Silicon Valley, which traditionally was very Democrat, very left. I don't know why, because they weren't looking after them. And they sat down to these $500,000 plate dinners. And now all the Silicon Valley billionaires are having a love fest with him. He just did a podcast with them, and they're fawning all over him, saying, oh, behind the scenes, this guy's really cool to hang out with, and he's really personable, and he really gets what we're doing, and he's pro-crypto, and he's pro-tech, and he's pro-business. He's pro the right kind of immigration. Like, if you're really smart and you can do something great for the country, let's keep you here. Yeah. And it's just wild to watch, Robert, how these people that I think had an image of him now realize that maybe he's the best thing for them. I see so many people changing their minds, and yet I'm still not certain that he'll officially win in November.
Well, the trouble with America, they have ways. Anyway, he's a very good, I wrote 2 books with him. We're supposed to write a third together. He's such a good man. My wife, Kim, Kim and I are getting divorced, but she just loves him. He's the greatest guy. Because there's no two Donald Trumps. He is exactly as he is at that moment. You don't have to wonder what he's saying because he'll say it to you.
Right.
So he's a great guy. His sons are fabulous young men compared to Hunter Biden. Oh my God.
I know, and that trial just finished, and I guess he's getting convicted. Yeah. I think what they do with Trump is the media tries to tell you who the person is, and then people buy into that.
Yeah.
It happens with so many people, where you think you have a version of the person that's put out by all the media, but when you actually see what they do, like you just said, or meet them, you realize couldn't be further from the truth. That's happened to me before. I'm sure that's happened to you. People meet me and they're like, Brian, you're nothing like what I thought you were. And so I just say to everybody out there, try to make your own decisions and realize that there's always some games being played everywhere out there, whether it's your bank or your doctor or the media. All these people have an agenda, and you need to figure out what the truth is and what's best for you.
And the saddest thing about it is, I don't know about it here in England, but America is so divided. You're either left or you're right. When that COVID vaccine came out, man, I got attacked by my friends. These are very smart guys, went to Stanford, Harvard, all rich guys. And they said, have you taken your vaccine? I said, no, I'm not going to. They attacked me. I said, why are you attacking me? Because you're killing people. You're killing people. I said, who told you that? The media did. I'm going, can't you guys, you went to the best schools in the country, you can't think. And now they're finding out that vaccine is killing young people. It's killed more young people than Vietnam.
Wow.
Because of that untested vaccine. But will they say anything? No.
I mean, we lived that whole process, Robert, and I was interviewing all the people behind the scenes. We obviously got banned from YouTube because of all of our videos, and it was like a slow motion train wreck for me because we could see it every single day and we could see it coming. But some of the smartest people had the craziest reactions. Like you said, you think some of the smartest people in the world could see what was going on, and what happens is they take fear and they turn it into a weapon. And so no matter how smart you are, if they can dial up the fear, you start making super irrational decisions. And then the thing is, Robert, is that if you scare enough people, they'll police each other. And that's what was happening to you.
That's the worst thing. There's self-censorship now.
Yes.
We can't say anything.
Right.
We're afraid to say something.
Yeah.
So they've won. They've won, whoever they is. I don't know who they are, but they've won. We're afraid to think. We're afraid to say anything. Go to parties, you're pretty guarded. People are on edge right now.
Yeah, well, you're in America, so you feel it more there. The left-right, I don't feel it as much here, but we're usually 5 years behind you guys, and that's not always a good sign.
Just dividing and dividing and dividing.
Yeah. On the other hand, we see platforms like X where free speech is at least happening as where it's not on Google and YouTube, I can tell you that, where at least there's a mandate for it. Now, you can criticize Elon Musk for various things, but he has advanced free speech on our social platforms. If he hadn't bought Twitter, Robert, I think people wouldn't be even talking as openly as they are. So that's a good sign. And some of the kind of communist leftist governments are falling in some places around the world, like Argentina. France is up for an election now. So there seems to be some pushback. Now, I'm not saying means there's a victory there, but there's some rays of hope. What do you think about Elon Musk? What do you think about Twitter? You use it a lot. You're a guy that always speaks your mind, Robert. That's what I always love about you.
Thank you.
And you always say it straight, and people respect that. What do you think? Are we making some strides?
Well, I feel the same about you. I worry about you.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, it takes courage, It's funny that freedom of speech takes courage today.
Yeah.
And we're not radicals. We're not bomb-throwing radicals. But it takes courage. I'm having dinner with friends and people are guarded. So just because I'm not going to take the vaccine yet, but you're killing people. How can they believe the media? These guys believe the media rather than logic or facts.
Yeah, well, we grew up brainwashed. We grew up trusting our banks, our governments, our currency, our doctors,
Right.
our food companies, and our media. And in this country, the BBC was everything. It was the end all and be all. Even to this day, I mean, I say some nasty things about the BBC, and if you're over 60, I might as well be insulting the Queen or the royal family because it's considered to be always right, but they're not. And they're all playing a game, and they all have their own interests. And they came after us when we started talking about the truth in 2020. And so
I remember.
the good news is people are waking up, Robert, and they're seeing Bitcoin as a parallel. They're seeing independent media as a parallel to the BBC. They're seeing taking your own health into your own hands as a benefit to taking any pill a doctor tells you. But we've got a ways to go,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
So that's why this book here with Fuller, Grunch, he was so far ahead of his time. He had a hard time. So one day I studied with him for 3 summers. I said, "Why do you talk about the future?" He says, "Then they won't kill me."
What does that mean?
He says, "If I told people what I really know is happening, they'd kill me."
Wow.
So he says he always talks about the future. And he's a stupid old man, talking about the future. Well, the future's here. We can see the cash ice right now. Banks they're printing so much money. Our debt to GDP is 135. That means we're borrowing money to pay debt. What's wrong with that picture? And these guys are PhDs, and we still send kids to school. You learn nothing about money, but you can't say anything.
Yeah. We talked about Trump earlier. Do you think he has a chance of turning this around? He talks about doing things for the economy. He talks about ending the wars. Do you think he can?
I fear for his life. That's the truth. He's messing. I don't know who they are. Who's they? But it's the deep state, or whatever you want to call it. Who are they? That's my concern. If he ever got effective.
Well, he just came out in a statement. He did a podcast with those same Silicon Valley investors that now love him. And they said, "Will you release the JFK files?" And before, when he was president, he released a bunch of them, but he didn't release all of them because he thought this is dangerous to show everybody what really happened. And he just said to them, "I'm going to release them all." And my heart kind of sank, Robert, because there's people that don't want that to happen. No. And so he's really walking a fine line. I mean, even when I see him in public, I see him walking to the UFC events there with Dana White, and the whole place goes crazy. I'm just thinking, man, it just seems unsafe. And
he's
now saying things
target.
like that, Yeah. I mean, we know now there's a whole group in Washington that's making money off all of these wars, right? That's printing money and it goes right back into their pockets. I was told the other day that Washington, D.C. has more millionaires per capita than any city in the world. Why? Is it a tech hub? No. Is it an oil? No. It's because of these Beltway bandits, and it's all pumping out these defense contracts.
Yeah.
And so they want it to keep going.
Right.
And they don't want him in there exposing things. The CIA doesn't want him exposing things. No. He struggled last time a little bit. So yeah, I'm worried.
I shouldn't have said what I said, but that's my concern.
Yeah, I'm glad you acknowledged it.
Can he turn it? I don't think they'll let him.
Do you like being in America now? I know you travel a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy,
Right, okay.
But I have people like you I can talk to. It comes down to your friends now. I got to be very careful who my friends are.
Okay.
Because we're self-censoring. It's terrible.
You were shut down from going to some universities and doing some talks in America. Right. Is that still happening, or are we now seeing that some places are more willing to have you talk? And
well, let me explain what happened.
Yeah.
I did a talk at Arizona State University, ASU. It's one of the largest universities in America, and their graduate honor students program invited me in to talk about capitalism. So I did a small talk for about 50 of them. These are honor students, Barrett Honors College. They loved it. I brought my oil guy in there, brought my tax guy in, brought my attorneys in there. I said, this is how capitalism's played, you know. They loved it. And so this honors program said, would you mind doing a bigger one for the school? So we put up a big one at Gamage, which is this big auditorium. And as soon as it was announced I was going to speak about capitalism, 39 professors shut us down. And they're woke professors. So they told every student, if you show up there, we'll flunk you. That's what they did. So the good news is, you know, it's always good news and bad news. The good news is the Arizona State Legislature opened up a study on what's going on. What are they teaching at Arizona State? So now those professors are being investigated by the legislature. And I've never been political. You're more political than I went to the legislature. I couldn't believe it. It's a circus. It's not. I've never seen so many goofy, screwed up people yelling and screaming and all this stuff. And I'm sitting in the audience going, all the elected officials, right, the legislature. Right. There's one woman up there, she has hair like this, and she's screaming about something. Another guy there, I'm not sure if he was male, female, or female, male, you know what I mean? It was just a circus. And they're all in one row. So, being naive, I nudged the guy next to me. I said, who's in that row back? Who's in that row? He says, they're called Democrats. So I burst out laughing out loud, and they said, hold it down back there. But they're the strangest people. So when I think of woke, that's Marxist spelled backwards. These are the weirdest people going. They're all the losers. You know, they want to blame everybody for them being losers. That's what woke means to me. You know, you and I, we have our troubles too. We all have problems. But they blame other people for their problems.
Yeah. Now, you grew up in a household where your family was in the education system.
Right.
I think your poor dad, your real dad, was all about education. I think a PhD and working for the high levels of education. So you got to see education before it got super infected with the wokeness. You knew it was coming, right? And now we see what it's doing to our children, and you know they're going to be the future. And tell me, I mean, you've talked about this before with the Communist Manifesto and all of this, but when you were a kid, did you know this was going to happen?
I'll just tell my evolution, because you know, a kid, you don't know too much. But in 1965, I had nominations to a Naval Academy and Merchant Marine Academy, took Merchant Marine Academy. I get to the academy, and it's military education, not civilian. And my economics teacher had us read the Communist Manifesto, Keynesian, and had us read the great economists. I read the Communist Manifesto, I went, it's only 50 pages. Written in 1848, I said, my God, my family are communists. Wow. They believe in taxation. They believe in labor unions. They believe take the money from the rich.
Right.
They're communists. So most school teachers, they're good people. You know, I look at economics as kind of a religion. So there's, you know, Keynesian, and there's Ricardo and Adam Smith. But communists are a different type of religion, and they want taxation. So your Labor Party is going to kick butt here. Your taxes are going to go up this way. Oh, gosh. Right?
Yeah.
Your taxes are going to go through the roof. Because they want to take from the rich and give to themselves.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.